Buju Niji Anishinaabe Dug Gichi Benesikwe Indigo Jawimang Maingan and Dudem Gawababi Gani Kug and Dunjaba. Welcome. I'm so deeply honored. I am the project coordinator for this project. I was hired back in October. And again, I'm just really honored to be helping out with this project and to be participating and putting together a curriculum that is going to bring about like indigenizing spaces within education, and in particular, bringing about our understandings of where we live, and then they're having the opportunity to share that in the school systems with everyone, our kids, um, you know, all races and people. It's just so important that we have that opportunity to be able to tell who we are from our perspective. And so when we when I was hired on and I was told, what were the different parts of the project, um, a major part of the project was to bring in the voices of the community, the voices of the elders, and to get their teachings and get their understandings of who we are as Anishinaabe so that we can implement these understandings into this curriculum. Um, and tonight's topic is about sugarbush. And so we'll be discussing that. But before we get started with the discussion, we're going to do two things. We are going to do introductions, and then we will have a prayer. And Brooke will be conducting our prayer tonight, and I've already passed her tobacco. Um, as we head into that arena, I will prompt everybody um, when we get ready to do the prayer to go and grab your tobacco and hold it in your hand, because that's the way that we do it over Zoom now because of COVID-19, because we want to keep everybody safe. And then after the prayer is done, we'll give everybody a few moments to put your tobacco out. All right. So now I want to call on each panelist and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. All right. Let's start with Roxanne.
Bonjour, Nendeno Maganidog. Squad the Mokoy and the go. Waawaakeyaash she and Dote. Mushkazi been in Donjaba. And sing them down. Shaganashi and Wendigen. I never really know how to start this way, other than, with introductions. And I place myself in a swamp background because that's really where I'm from. I'm from the swamps. Bad River, Wisconsin is my home, and I make my way back there quite often. I, however, live here in this area now, and I've been here probably 30 years. So I tell you who I am, Bushkwad Mokwe. My mother, however, tagged me Roxanne. I'm not real sure where she got that from. I don't know what that was about that name, but she liked the name, so that's how I got. Later on, I was tagged Rocky as a girl, and must have been, I don't even know what that was about either. I think it was just simply a shortening. But you know how we all seem to come with nicknames. I tell you, my home, that means something very specific to me, though, when I say that. Not only is it deeply personal to me, but it also makes the declaration that where I live and where I work is not my home. That, in fact, I'm here by the grace of those who this is their home. And so I always think of myself as a visitor, and I try really hard to act that way. What else did I say? I tell you, my clan, Waawaakeyaash, feisty little critter that is probably right about now running around checking the openings in the water to see if there's fish starting to come yet, or if there are the openings starting to happen. I know they like fish, so they'll also sit up in trees and they'll chase about a little bit. But I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for that. I almost want to say elders on the panel. Michael, I think that's you and me, huh? Keller, you're almost there. You're like right on the cusp. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Roxanne. I think I have to disagree with you. I think that Keller, you're just like the baby elder right now, but you're definitely like
baby elder. I like that.
The very beginning of that status. All right. Waasegiizik, am I saying your name correctly?
Yep. I like to think of that term as elder in training. I think that's how I see myself. Almost there. Bonjour, Kanawiya, Michael Price, Waasegiizik, Indigenous, Makwa Nindo Dem. Wikwim Kon de Bindagazian, Midash Nungum. Wishkong singing Dayan Nungum. Glifwik Ejinaka Deg Nindanokia Manungum. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Price Waasegiizik. I am enrolled at Wikwimikong First Nations in Ontario, Manitoulin Island. But today I live in Wisconsin. I work for the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, headquartered in Odana. I've been here for about 2 years now, but I just finally got physically moved over here back in December. I mean, my whole first 2 years was almost totally on Zoom, and I was working from Bemidji, Minnesota. So it's really good to finally get settled over here and right on the, I live almost right on the shore of Lake Superior. So it's really nice over here. I love it. At Glifwik, I am the traditional ecological knowledge specialist. So I helped them to incorporate language, culture, and traditions into the work we do at Glifwik. And it's a way different job than what I've had in the past. For almost the last 20 years, I've worked at tribal colleges in Minnesota, mostly at Leech Lake Tribal College, teaching forestry and biology and environmental science. So this is kind of a different spin on things. I'm working with scientists now. I'm teaching to scientists, both native and non-native, about the language and about our cultural ways and how they can integrate that into the management of the fish, wildlife, and resources on the ceded territories. So I'm very honored to be over here, and I'm really honored to be a part of this group. So I appreciate the invitation and the outreach to myself as an elder in training. Oh, miigwech. No, you can call me elder too. That's fine.
Oh, so you guys just left me in the gray here.
Miigwech.
No.
All right. Waawaakeyaash, Ginatum.
Uju kina awia insa Waawaakeyaash Indigenous Migizi Indudem Indunjaba Eudis Misquabikanga Misquabikag Asian Akadeg Indam Indashma Wadawaza Gaigani Miomai Inanokian Dananokian Masa Shkoniganing Dananoki Eudis Warukudaring Asian Akadeg Ningiwidu Kage ga Majish Kamoadio Gikino Madio Gamik Warukudaring Asian Wijigadega Awashime Nishtana Dasobibun. Bonjour everyone, I'm Keller Paap. They call me Waawaakey. I am Migizi clan, it's a bald eagle clan, Anishinaabe person from Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, right on the tip of the peninsula up there. We call the center of the universe from whence all greatness flows. Yeah, so Red Cliff is my home community. my mother's side of the family. And I live at Lakudere, Waasegiizik, they call it. That's a bit south of there, another Ojibwe community. I live here with my family. It's been over 20 years. I work currently for an organization called Waawaakeyaash Ojibwe Language Institute, most probably prominently known as Waawaakeyaash School, that was started a little over 20 years ago. So I assisted with the startup of that program and was a classroom teacher for many, many years, 20 years, and have since moved into more of an administrative capacity, continuing with the program. So we're very grateful to be affiliated with our people and our work and our language. And I feel fortunate to have been assisted, supported, pushed, challenged by who we revere as some of our most precious community members, carriers of our traditional ways of our language, and specifically those who grew up, as we say, in the bush, those who chose to live a very traditional life. And that has had a profound impact on me and my coworkers, the people I know, and the people we associate with, and my children. So I'm really grateful to have been asked to attend and participate and share in this panel. I consider myself still a learner in so many ways, and even a lot of the old timers we learned from had said, you never stop learning. You just keep going, go as far as you can, do as much as you can, you help your people. It's an honor to be immersed in your ways, in your traditions, and keep pushing on for that. So I feel lucky to be able to do that, and humbled to have been asked to help with this. I revere the Boundary Waters as probably the most beautiful place on planet Earth. That section of Ojibwe country, I haven't seen them all, so I can't say for sure, but Boundary Waters is a second to Red Cliff. That's my home turf where my blood flows and my genes and everything else. So just grateful to be here, Miigwech. You.
Miigwech, Waawaakey. All right. Next, Ginatum Busway Waasegiizik.
Indigenous Anishinaabe Person Kika Indigenous Cause Mako and New Name is Kabi Kang Indigenous. Injan Waawaakeyaash Kangigi Nin Danakisin Nangum. I'm going to translate now what I said. Hello everybody, I am Lilly. I'm from Red Cliff. I am Beckland, and I go to school at Waawaakeyaash, and I do not work anywhere. But I do enjoy being here right now, so thank you very much. That is all I have to say.
Miigwech Busway Waasegiizik. Ginatum Gashbashkwe.
Uju Gashbashkwe Indigenous Cause Makonindude Musquapkung Nindunjaba. Nindija Giknu Mage Wigamagung Ishinkade Waawaakeyaash. Minwa Kitchipanesikwe Gipiminig O Sema de Gagi Godnugum. Bonjour, I'm Brooke. I am a co-clan, Bear Clan, and I am from Redcliffe. I go to Waawaakeyaash school, and my mom gave me tobacco today to talk. Meet you.
All right. So like I had mentioned earlier, because we are doing this over Zoom, because we are trying to practice the safety protocols for COVID, we ask that before Gosh Bashwe begins the prayer, if everybody could grab some tobacco and put it in your hand. If you could do that now, and then when you're ready, we'll get started. So while people are potentially still grabbing their tobacco, I'm going to talk a little bit about the choice to ask Gosh Bashwe to say the prayer. I had the great honor of being hired at Waasegiizik back in November of 2018. And being there, and I still have a part-time position there right now too. But being there was just walking into the environment was just so overwhelming with like kindness and respect and love, and to know that these children are learning and understanding their identity as who they are through the language. And I was just so like taken away, blown out of the water by the older kids, because they would, at the beginning of the week, they would open the the school week with drumming and singing, and the kids would dance, but there would also be a prayer. And it would be the older kids, they would be the ones that would say the prayer for everybody for the week. And now my daughters are a part of the older group, and so they're learning this prayer and they're learning how to do that. And I thought it would be a really beautiful opportunity for them to open us up with a prayer. And so she's going to get us started. All right. Gosh, bye.
Bujun dinui magnitude. Kichibanikwe. Gipimening ono sema de ganu de magian nungam. Gosh bashban indigenous cosma kanan de demascarpa kung nunjaba. Nui apagizun damawag again manidug a number wad ono sema. Naganazin manidu mi manidu ga atuda kinege go ma king. Manidu ayad amaking miwa amanidu the we onjinike tawad anu Anishinaabe the Nandamawad Newton Wendanamak me ama bidasama bewad iwide wabanang shawanang Ningabinang nagogaye giwenano Wenabuju miwa amanidu natamga kikinu amawad Anishinaabe akinagegu gane ijichganed okomasan ogi wijayawan mitagwabi wanini mi wa amanidu ka nakodang mayunja de gana wendang manidu ogitigan Anishinaabe wanini mi wa amanidu ke widu koad enyu Anishinaabe aya kozinigen Waasegiizik na odikweman migo gaye winawa gane odapinawad ono seman edasu nawakwe gidu minananig benesiwa bemeseje gijigong nayo gadejig oasi yug be bame betujig me goyak nibikang eajig Memengo isiag mi ingu manidu gwenda jawena majig anu Anishinaabe abinujian bagwajinene miwa amanidu ga nakwadang meunja de gana wendang nagamonan na debajamowenan anangukag ayajig gijawena megonanig megwa nebayang wimino bawajigayang gababunake mi amanidu guning ayad aginjibigwesi mi amanidu ganawenang Anishinaabe moen gizis gimishumisan mi amanidu ga nakodang mayunsha de zakus swad enu Anishinaabe megwabe megijik gadinik dibike gizis mi manidu ga nakodang mayunsha de gwaye kosidamoad enu Anishinaabe gegu anikanet Nimigwechu Witagos Akinagegu Mine Gozeang Anishinaabe Nimigochuendam Gaye Guechimigoyan de Gagigidoyan Gawin Nina Kinamani de Ingakana Masif Gawin Dash de Andres Kasin Wao Asema Iwidewe Namawada Kina Gumani du Mi ama ijigwayak ge inakad gidasemanan mi gwech bizindayak apegash akina wea de minosayag nungum mi ew.
Oh, great. Gosh, bye. All right. If we all want to take about 3 minutes and just put your tobacco out.
Bonjour to our attendees. If you had a sayama in your hand, tobacco, it's one of our sacred medicines. Take a moment to put it outside into nature. What Brooke did really is make this, she really set the stage for this to happen in a good way. And just seeing someone so young speak the language, it really brings tears to my eyes. And so take that time. As a reminder, if you have questions, please enter them into the Q&A. So while we're waiting for our speakers to come back from putting their SAMA out, it's a good time to grab a cup of tea or coffee, and we will be back with you in just a moment. Miigwech to all of you for attending. And you can go out and invite your friends to attend too. So again, miigwech everyone for taking that time. I took a moment for our panelists. I took just a moment to kind of explain for some of our attendees kind of the intention behind what we did, and I got a little like, to bring back an old SNL term, verklempt, like to hear Brooke. It made my heart happy. And so it's just great to have everyone here tonight. And I invited all our attendees to invite others, whether they attend this session or our upcoming 3 that we'll talk about later. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and stop my video because my cats are circling. So.
All right. Are we ready to come back? Has everybody been able to get their tobacco out?
We're good.
Hey, nice cat, John. Sitting on your shoulder.
That's why my camera's off.
All right. I also just wanted to say, I think that it's really fitting that we, have a youth doing our prayer, and because that's the hope, is that this information is going to reach other youth in the school systems. So, the beauty of this curriculum is, we had met with Dennis Jones previously, and he talked really a lot about indigenizing the curriculum, you know, so when we're bringing in our understandings of who we are as Anishinaabe into the school systems, whether that be our mainstream Western school systems and or, you know, our tribal school systems, is that, you know, his guidance was that we work really hard on indigenizing it. And so that was one of the main reasons we started out with the prayer, because he talked about the importance of that and bringing in, you know, that help with the prayer to watch over us and to guide us as we share our knowledge and our understandings. So with that, let's go on ahead and get started with the topic of the night. So the topic of the night is sugar bush. And I will start us out with talking a little, you know, just kind of to get things going, to get the discussion going. I want to talk about what I know about sugar bush and its importance to Anishinaabe. Years back before Nisowasin Abun, Sean Farlander passed away, I remember hearing him tell you know, he was doing storytelling and he was talking about, you know, the maple syrup and the story behind that. And, you know, it's like at times you just take small pieces of the story and you really like, you know, for me, you know, I take these small pieces and then I just really let it resonate and sit in my mind. And I hope to hear the story again so that I can get another part of the story, right? But the piece that really, there were a couple of pieces that really stood out to me, but I think for this, you know, for the topic for tonight is that as I remember it, the Anishinaabe were having a really hard time, and then they were gifted the maple syrup. And now it's been a while since I've heard that story, and but I think about that, and I think about how to, you know, today and what that looks like, and you know, the gift that we have with that, and that we continue to pass that along to the generations and teach, you know, everybody how to do that and participate in it, and and how important it is. And even from, you know, the standpoints that, you know, of like, you know, Waasegiizik, the tribal ecological knowledge, I hope I'm saying that correctly, your position. And then Waawaakeyaash, you know, as you have taught kids over the years how to participate in that. And Roxanne, you know, your knowledge as an elder and what you know about the importance of that, and the importance of that to us as Anishinaabe people, and how we need to continue to pass that along to our babies. So if anybody wants to, feel free to get started. I won't pick on anybody. So out of the three of you, do you want to do rock, paper, scissors, or do you just want to, somebody just want to start talking?
Well, I could start. We've had a lot of discussions about sugar maple at Glyphwick, and a lot of our climate models and a lot of our prediction tools predict that sugar maple is going to start declining, especially in the 1842 treaty area and possibly the 1837. So it made us all kind of step back and think about, in and not thinking how much it's a part of us. But if it disappears, how much of that is going to take away from us as Anishinaabe people. And so we got to meeting and talking about, well, what do we do? Like if in 100 years the sugar maple totally leaves northern Minnesota, what do we do? And I remember listening to Marvin Defoe, and he goes, yeah, my sugar bush is got lots of red maple in there too, and I go ahead and tap them. I've heard several people start talking about tapping red maple trees. And if worse come to worse, and we did lose all of our sugar maple in these regions, our Anishinaabe homelands, we can turn to other relatives like red maple or possibly silver maple. It might be a different process of boiling. I think it takes longer to make sugar from red maple sap than it does from sugar maple sap. But we will still maintain that relationship with that family of trees, the maples. But we are having discussions about, what is this country going to look like 50 years from now and 100 years from now? Obviously, I won't be around then, but I definitely want to help to make sure that our culture and our connection with the maple trees remain strong, even during this time of climate change and the changing of the landscape. So I wanted to start off with that. If anybody else wants to add to that.
I'll wrestle you for it, Keller.
I will defer to my elder. Wow. Either one. Go ahead, Roxanne. I'll follow you up.
I think of a couple things, when we think about that. I think of, and so my background, I'm the Dean of Indigenous and Academic Affairs at Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. And my PhD work was epistemology. And it's interesting though, because I never finished it. I got all the way to a dissertation, and when my advisor wanted to take lead authorship on my article, I said, I'm done, and I walked away. But that doesn't, but the beauty is that didn't leave. All of that information didn't leave. And I think that's how I would start out thinking about this. This information didn't leave. These stories didn't leave. And what I think is important about that is it's for a minute, maybe for a minute in some places, these became just stories. But somewhere something happened. That's the epistemological foundation of it. Is something happened that the spirit engaged it again. And so in the telling then of those stories, we started to hear different. And we started to think different again. Not so much different as, I hope you know what I'm talking about it. But so I think about how that story is talked about, and there are all kinds of little versions of it, but they're all essentially having a thread. They all have a thread that runs through that essentially transmits the same meaning underneath when we look for it. That Money Dude loves us. We were loved. We are loved. And we are loved so much that to have us suffer, to have us go without, others would sacrifice for us. Others would stand up. Others would give for us. And so I always think about that. I always think about being loved. Okay, Anishinaabe. Gosh, that's one of the things that fills me continuously, is recognizing just how much I'm loved. And then in there too, there's another piece to that always stands out to me. And I remember way back, oh my goodness, I don't even know, when, but I remember my Uncle Porky Wade, for lack of a better way to put it, but my uncle said to me, be careful what you pray for, because we are loved so much that no matter what we pray for, we will get. It just doesn't come the way you expect. And so I spent years thinking about that, because there was, as I made my way back to understanding and back to thinking, there was many things that I prayed for and I thought were important to me. And I see that I did get all of them, but they didn't come in the package that I expected them to come in. So some of those things that I thought, whoa, what did that happen for? What was that about? Later on, I recognized truly was a gift. I didn't see it as a gift in the beginning, but I did later. Once I saw, once I came through that filter of being loved, we are loved so much, then I saw the gift. And so there are all these threads that are in here of all these different learnings throughout the years that have all culminated into this understanding, eh? And I think that is what Uncle Jim spoke about. And because he asked a question, he says, are you in your right mind? Yeah, I think so. I think so. He says, no, really. Are you in your right mind? Are you in your good Anishinaabe mind? Or are you somewhere else? Okay, wait. let me shuffle, shake it up a minute, Okay, I'm back. And when I really work hard, because it's hard for me, hey, I'm coming through a colonized way of being. I'm coming through an upbringing in a dominant world. I'm coming through education that's tried really hard to whitewash me. And somehow I stumbled and met this old man who drugged me out into the bush. But I work hard at thinking in that way. And so when I think about our treaty rights, and when I think about those ones who were there and were the signers, I know that they thought that way too. I know that they saw these gifts, and I know that even though they knew, they probably, I don't know if they knew or not, but I think they did. I think they might have known something, eh? I think they might have known a little bit about how we might not see the full gift of it, but we might get it. Their gift to us. I was saying, hey, wait a minute, we'll negotiate, but we'll retain this. Wait, we have to keep that. Wait, And I think they were really smart in that. Okay. And all of this then comes together into recognizing, oh my goodness, how much we're loved, eh? We were loved by our people way back then, enough to think about us, to send it ahead. We were loved by those Manitou that would not let us suffer. We were loved, even today, those red maples that say, we'll help. Or those silver maples, will help. But it does call to us, to do something a little different, to be thinking about it like that. How can we not reciprocate? How can we not? How can we not give back? So when I hear our girl speak the way she did in that prayer, I'm with Jen, I want to just cry. That's how we reciprocate. That's how we give it back. That's how we make sure. Okay. Send it ahead just as much as we can, little bits and pieces. Will it save the sugar maple? I don't know. But I just betcha, if we get in our right mind. So you got to follow me around. I run around a little bit here, but I got a point. I think we need to get in our right mind when we think about it. Miigwech.
Oh, Keller. you the words to share.
Sure. Miigwech for sharing, you two. Those are some really great concepts. Many layers there you've exposed and put out there for us to consider. And I think they're so dense that your ideas will take a while to unpack and to share. I like starting off with this idea of we're facing some serious challenges, it's the reality. And I think Anishinaabe have always faced that. We have been resourceful and I think successful due to assistance from others, other humans, but other beings and other things, other forces too, that I think, like you said, Roxanne, have allowed us to continue. And just think for a moment, given the trend of history, that it's a miracle that Anishinaabe people are even still here today, right? We know that just the simple act of being here, of choosing to wear our hair the way we do, or your beautiful earrings, our braids, for a child to say more than just a few words in our Indigenous language, those I think oftentimes are seen as beautiful acts of defiance, of power and unity for all of us. But it's a message to, I think, all of humanity that we have a right, and we were given those rights by spirits who said, we put you here not to suffer. We give you gifts. We know you're pitiful. We put you here as the last ones in creation. And if you go, everything else will be probably okay. But we're going to give you some teachings. And those teachings, I think, are universal good teachings that we were given, simple ones, and in our work that all of us do, at the end of our day, when we come to meetings, when we're with family, it's like what you said, are we in our right head there, in our right space? And so the teaching of respect, right? Respect all things, respect all beings. And so for Ininatik, the sugar maple, spring is like our new year, right? This is our beginning coming up here. We make it through winter. It's a miracle. We get a chance to come together. Life comes back and it keeps teaching cycle after cycle after cycle. So if we're fortunate enough, we get to see many of those cycles and ponder the magnificence of all of that beautiful knowledge. And if we're even more fortunate to live a life connected to nature, boy, we have lived a good life. Not to say that we need millions of dollars or anything like that, or own real estate or have power over people, but that we have lived our destiny or our purpose to the fullest, that the Money Duke said, here, this is the garden of the Creator. Everything you need is here. Look, learn from all of nature, from all of the animals, from the plants and the trees and the cycles and the seasons and the weather, and it will teach you generations worth of knowledge. So it's up to us what we want to do with that. And I think that's an interesting concept, especially to remind us all that that's not just for Anishinaabe people. That's for the wellness of our whole Earth, Mother Earth, all of the ecosystems and the biomes and everything else that. And when you look around at other groups of humans and their old time teachings too, they're all pretty much the same. Many of the old time ones about respecting the plants. And, when you look at from a language perspective, each of us on this panel have a skill set, a sort of window of expertise. Roxanne in education and Indigenous Indigenous knowledge, and Waasegiizik, looking at it from the ecological perspective and coming in contact with science, old time and new science, and Indigenous science. And then from language, we see another way of looking at life and about the importance of carrying on. So, you know, trees, we call them itigug, and we see them as rocks, as we see rocks, in that they're living things, they're animate beings, we say. And so when you think of a forest as a whole group of animate things that you're supposed to respect, you don't see it as a stand of wood that can be chopped up and turned into pulp and pellets, and seeing it that way. When you see the water and how dependent animals and plants and everything and weather patterns, as well as the relationship with the trees and the energy that they give and take, the carbon, you know, when they exhale, when they inhale, how can you not be awestruck by just how magnificent that whole thing is? The whole cycle of life, the interdependence of life. And when you grow up there, so some of the Ojibwe bands who they call the Boundary Waters in Quetico their home, Treaty 3 area, in those other places, that that is so deep for them, and for us too around here that have similar territories and waterways and forests, that you cannot help but think of it differently than what many mainstream people do. And we have a right and an obligation to protect that to the best of our abilities from our areas of expertise and with the influence that we have in our communities, no matter where we are. So it's like you don't know what you don't know. And so people who only see Boundary Waters as an area that maybe they could flood and log or mine, there's some sort of education that hasn't occurred yet. And I don't know if they're necessarily going to be the ones to take it on their own fruition, to seek the education, to educate themselves, to become enlightened. I think we all have a responsibility to keep pushing, to keep sharing, to keep educating kids. And from their very first days, before they're even born. I mean, when we went to Boundary Waters, my wife was pregnant with one of our children there. And that's how their Boundary Waters experience started. They weren't even born yet, and they were already, you know, hearing the water and the paddling and the portaging and the laughing and the loons and everything else. And so as they got older, we took them there and we fasted in those areas. It's embedded in us, and it probably has been for our generations too. And so the first time going there, or the first time going to Sugarbush, there's something that just deeply calls you, that your words can't explain, but that your emotions and your senses can certainly detect and connect with. And I think there's something that's just so wonderful to have that opportunity. So I don't know, I could just go, I love the Boundary Waters so much that I could go on and just keep talking about it all night, and all the beautiful natural places of the Anishinaabe communities that we're from and that we have visited and our friends are from. It's incredible country. Anishinaabe territory is amazing. So I guess Mio Manik, I'll just keep going on, but I did have some other ideas I'll share in a little while, some considerations about power resting in places and shared spaces, and then just maybe as an effort to inject some persuasion, some ammunition for our persuasive efforts as we work with our people and with non-native communities about the importance of natural places. You know, that when you look at our biological makeup, we are more connected to the natural environment than within the boxes that we inhabit in our existence, in our time now, where most of us spend our time. And it just makes so much more sense to be outside for as much of the day as you possibly can for as much of your life. And realizing that over the pandemic, when we were virtual on everything, I think I walked every inch of our 40 acres many, many times a day for the whole year. And I tell you, that just rekindled all sorts of understandings and affirmations and assurances about our traditional views, about our language, about the plants and the trees and our seasonal practices. It's deep, it's rich, and I think if someone doesn't take the time to have those experiences, they're missing out. Their children are missing out. And I encourage people to get out there. There's wellness in it, right? Like physical wellness too. When you work sugar bush, not just a one-day field trip during the school year for your kids to go have a taste of maple syrup. When you really work a sugar bush, it will tune you up. You will be in shape. You will be sharp as a tack. You will be a manager. You will be a coordinator. You will know how to do logistics. You will be strong from snowshoeing. You will be tough from splitting wood and hauling and boiling and doing long nights. And you'll be a great community person because you have to deal with all ages. You have to deal with families. You have to deal with our people. And it's just, there's so many benefits to it, eh? Sugar bush, it's one of the best activities, I think. And no mosquitoes, usually. Neil, do Zamadou and Miigwech.
Or ticks, no ticks either.
Excuse me, I feel like I'm losing my voice. I've got a little bit of a, I have a cough and it's from allergies, so excuse me. All right. Maybe we can just continue to do kind of like a, the order that we started. Do you want to share some more, Waasegiizik, after listening to your colleagues and what they've had to say?
Yeah, I appreciate the words from Roxanne and Keller. While you guys were talking, I was just thinking about, this idea of the maple trees possibly disappearing. And a lot of times we're always thinking in deficit mode all the time, like, what are we going to lose? How are we going to survive this, But one thing, and Keller mentioned this too, that our people have been very resilient and we've been very adaptable to a very hostile political environment over the last 200 years. The federal government put 100 years into trying to obliterate our languages. And now look, we're having virtual online conferences and reaching people that could never even, possibly travel to get there. So we've adapted very well. And I know that we'll adapt to this climate change crisis. We will find, just like Roxanne mentioned, the sugar maple may be reaching out to us and say, look, we'll take over where our relatives, the sugar maple, couldn't do it. I think that's a very indigenous way of looking at that. Hanging out with scientists all the time. Scientists are always trying to figure out how to fix things. Oh, we got this problem. Well, we can fix that. Oh, the emerald ash borer is going to kill all of our ash trees. Well, we got a plan to fix that. And they don't ever take the time to consider that nature can heal itself if it's been inflicted. We don't need to come in and fix it all the time. Sometimes we make a bigger mess trying to fix things in nature. And so maybe this is a time to sit back and reflect and like, what do we do as Anishinaabe people if our climate is changing because of the inflictions that we've done on the atmosphere? And there's no doubt in my mind that we will adapt and we will we'll find a way to overcome those changes. Another thought that came to my mind is indigenous knowledge, and I used to go out to Wallace Humphrey's sugar bush out on Sucker Bay Road in Leech Lake. I'd bring my son out there and we would help with the gathering of the sap. And Wallace was sitting down there and telling me one time, he says, it's really strange, when the sap is running good and all of a sudden the wind picks up and the trees start waving like this. He says, all of a sudden the sap slows down. And I'm like, wow, what do you think that is? He says, well, I don't know, Mr. Scientist. I thought you'd tell me. So we never really got farther. But Wallace had some knowledge there about the sugar bush. That one thing he told me, very definitive knowledge about the sugar bush and how it acts. And there's no telling what other stories that he had that I never got a chance to hear from him. He's passed on now, so all of that knowledge went with him. And I'm sad now that I didn't just sit with him and just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Pot of coffee after pot of coffee, learning and learning and learning. I didn't do that, when I was younger. I wish I would have now. So the knowledge that we have, the indigenous knowledge, the Anishinaabe knowledge we have of the landscape, we need to figure out a way how to preserve it and to pass it on to the next generations and not be chalant about it, be very definitive about it so that we don't lose any more of our knowledge base. Every day I try to decolonize my mind and try to get the Western thinking and the Western reasoning out of my head. And, like Keller mentioned, just going out to the boundary waters and spending some time out there being quiet and thinking about all of our teachings and getting reacquainted with the landscape is so good for my soul and my physical health, as long as my mental health as well. I need to do more of that. But my life gets so busy sometimes that I can't do it. Although now that I'm working with Glyphwick, I work with a bunch of field scientists and we're always out in the woods now. So actually this might be a great time for me to get reacquainted with the forest. So anyway, I feel like I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but those are two things that I wanted to share about the indigenous knowledge and how to preserve it, and about our adaptability as indigenous people, as Anishinaabe people.
May I go to Waasegiizik? Yeah, COVID did some beautiful things. Very harsh, very harsh, very hard. But there were some beautiful things that came out of it. I mean, certainly in my family, it got me and my kids out. I mean, my grandkids who were iPad kids, yeah, I know many of the superior trails here now as a result, and I didn't know as many. I've been a trail runner for years, but I know lots of trails because you get bored with the same ones, so you keep looking, and so we did. But I like what it did, and so I'm capitalizing a little bit on what was said too, that it's good for us. This is good for us. This natural being out, and sugar bush will tune you up. Oh gosh, will it ever? Hey, do sugar. Now keep at it. Yeah, I mean, it does, but it's the richness of it. It's the richness of that life, that makes that so good, and that gift is so beautiful. It's so flippin' hard, but there was nothing more amazing to me than watching my grandchildren, because of course I had little teeny wee buckets. While we had the great big ones, they had little wee buckets. They'd be running around, but it was their touching that tree, and then taking the sap and pouring it in their little buckets. And then, they'd be just happy hauling their sap back. Of course, half of it got spilled on the way back, but Money was always, generous to us. So, but I think about that. I think about the importance of that hard work. And I think about the importance of the being there and the doing that. And I again, Uncle Porky rings in my head as he says, the teaching is in the work hard. Okay, work hard. The teaching is in the work. And so I always thought about that, eh? And that was, but I'm the oldest of 10 kids. My mom was a crazy hard worker. And my dad was a sunrise to sunset worker trying to provide for us. And between the two of them, I mean, I don't think I had much choice but to be a hard worker, you know. But I see that. I see how that was, you know, an intentional thing in my life. I see how that was a beautiful thing in my life, to know how to work hard, okay? To know how to appreciate the vessel, okay? And so when I think about that appreciation of the vessel that I was given, it always ripples out to from there. But now he talked about the importance of seeing our place as this teeny tiny thing that then comes out, and how it's the interaction that's the important piece, that we interact in this, that we not just sit there and let it happen around us, that we interact in. So I was always grateful for that too, and I think I've passed that on to my grandkids. They don't always like it when I say, "Come on, we're going," and I don't think they always appreciate the gift. But you know what? They sure do like pancakes. They love them first pancakes, don't they? And they sure do like that first cooked rice. And they sure do like their bed after they've got it all set up from camp, you know, get everything ready. That hard work, they sure do like it after. Now, I don't think they know yet to turn around and look and see the gift that was, okay? But I think they'll catch it one day. And I think that that's an important thing for us too, is to turn around and see the gift that's here. The importance of recognizing our little teeny place that's in a larger cosmos. And so I really appreciate what you said, Keller, when you talked about, you know, that it's more than us, that we are only but a teeny little piece in this, and we're only, you know, a tiny bit of what creation is. We are not it. You know, we're not it. So when I think about the importance of these beautiful places, you know, I'm a swamp girl. I love this stuff. I can be in the swamp all day long. I love that. I love the smell. I love the place. I like the, you know, the energy. I like the bugs. Isn't that crazy? But I worry for bugs. Don't even get me going there. I really worry for that. But anyway, you know, but I love that. And I worry, okay, that what will happen for my great granddaughter. Will she have those places that I had? Because I know that my kids can't go to the creek and drink from the creek the way I did. That breaks my heart. I know that my grandson can't pull the fish right out of the water, clean it right there on the shore and eat it without carefully examining that fish first. And so I think about this stuff, and I really, you know, so my morning prayers are very full. Let me tell you, it seems like the older I get, the fuller they get. The older I get, the longer I'm standing there. The more I got to say, the more I'm, you know, offering my thanksgiving, my gratitude, you know, oh my goodness, it just gets fuller and fuller and fuller because I got so much to say. There's so much to be thankful for and appreciative of, you know, and I don't want to cry around too much. I want to work hard, you know, because the gift is there if I'm willing to work for it, and if I'm willing to just turn around and see what all it was a part of. Tuned up, stay tuned up. Right on, you gotta stay tuned up. To the end of their lives, our people were strong. to the end, to the very end, they were strong. They were strong here, they were strong here, and they were strong physically. They took care of the vessel. And so I think it's really important that we take a look at, are we taking care of the vessels, plural? There are multiple vessels that we need to be thinking about. And I don't know that I can do a lot of that work. And I'm grateful for the work that Michael does. I'm really grateful for the work that Keller does, because that's not the kind of work I can do. And I think it's important that we each just take our piece, at least take our piece and do our piece. I don't have to do anything, the big stuff. That wasn't my negotiation. That's not what I set here to do. I do big stuff by sitting with my prayer in the morning. That's my big stuff. Okay? I do big stuff by picking up a copper vessel and walking down the road, and and people are going, "Holy, what the heck's that old lady doing out there?" But they're wondering, because they see my vessel, they recognize and they see the flags, and they see water protector, So I take my little piece of the work, and I'll do my little piece for as long as I can do that. And that's a commitment I can make. But I'll spin on you in the same way that old man spun on us, because that's what he said. What will you do? What will you do to ensure that we send this ahead? Gosh, seems like that's been in my pipe almost every day. I keep hearing that. What will you do? What are you sending ahead? What are you doing? And so it's almost a rush now as I come around the corner on 70 here. Holy smokes, I don't know how that happened. But it's almost a rush to make sure that I'm getting as much as I can. So what will you do? And so everybody who's here, who's listening, as panelists, we know what we're talking about. I'm talking to you. What will you do? I ask you pointedly. Okay? I ask you to seriously consider it. What will you do?
Hey Dixie, is it okay if I jump in? Okay.
Please
I
do.
just a few things I think about, like my role working at a Catholic institution, and I've just been really emotional tonight, and in some ways it feels like this is my space, and it like just fills me up, and I'm even tearing up. I'm not a crier, but unless I hurt myself, but I can't thank you all enough. And when I do feel that, and I know Leah Prussia is going to be, I think everyone knows her, but she's a professor at CSS from where I'm from, Waawaakeyaash, and she talks about in her therapy solastalgia, that hurt we have for the earth, and we just don't know how to process it. And when I get that feeling where I just, as an environmental ed, I have a degree in that, but I want to, when I feel like I can't anymore, I think of the teachings that you're sharing tonight, and knowing that, and Michael, you shared this when we had you at a retreat recently about like, the earth will heal, like it makes adjustments, right? And those are the parts that sustain me when my anxiety gets too bad around the solastalgia. But also tonight I had a memory jarred, and yeah, I'm getting older too. But my first time, my grandpa grew up, a boarding school, like didn't, talk at all until, I'm a nosy kid, so I figured it out. But it was when I got to really to a space and place where I could ask questions as a young adult. And then Roxanne, we went to school together, and I remember you bringing us up to Sawyer, to Sugar Bush, And like what, like it clicked. It was like a puzzle piece that was missing that clicked into place. And it was today that memory just really flew back because we took the big bus, the big yellow bus out there. But I can't thank you enough for that moment. And we tap too around here at my brother's property, and we actually are tapping birch in our, well, not right now, but in our yard. And that story comes back to me. So that gift was amazing. And it reminds me that I just need to not hold this in. Like, I need to keep passing this on and keep telling these stories to my young men in my life, my boys. Just miigwech to all of you. That's all I had to say. I will fade off into the
Great, Jen.
So we have I had this idea there as we were talking. Boy, I've been getting some good ones. We're sparking each other's interest here, and I see people jotting things down, and gosh, it's stimulating and exciting and just good to be here with you all. But I share a little bit about myself. And so being a teacher for a long time, being a teacher teaches you, kids teach you all sorts of things. They're the best teachers, I think. And trying to teach them our language, and they'll learn 3, 4, 5 languages, no problem, if they're in the right setting, right? But we believed in using sugar bush as one of our main teaching opportunities. And so here we are 20 some years in, and a few years ago, we were at Sugar Camp with some of our students, many of them, it's a multi-grade experience. And so you try to group multi-age peer groups. So the older ones teach the younger ones how to collect sap and put the cans back and be careful around the fire and how to be safe in camp. And we have time at camp where there's a little bit of downtime when some of the work is done. And so it's time to crack out some of the books. And so kids are reading, or, they bring clipboards and do math, or they're doing sketches or journal entries. And there was a group of students there who had been in the program since they were 3 years old, and they were now in 7th grade. And I had to ask them, and I said, do you ever remember a time when you didn't sugar bush, when you weren't at the camp in the bush? And they all started laughing, and they're like, no, we have had this our entire lives, and it's work, but we love it out here, and I thought for a moment, wow, that's going to be with them for the rest of their lives, right? And then I said, look, these old trees, how many generations of Anishinaabe do you think they have seen? And they're seeing you, and they hear you, and they know you're here, and they hear that language out in the woods. And I thought, man, this is like, it didn't hit me until like days later when we had that conversation of that is a powerful experience for the kids, but for others too, to say that, it's like the old patterns that we've ingrained in our people. It's like in our blood or something, because we can feel that when we're out there. Old time stuff. And I think, Roxanne, you were talking about this too, about the old timers. They knew so much. They go to college or anything like that, but my gosh, they're like the Jedi Council, where they are, holy smokes, they have their own PhDs many times over in subject area and content matter that we can only dream of, that you can't get at a university in some of these places. And it's so vibrantly alive when you connect with that, with those kids. But I thought that was a powerful image. So Jen, you were talking about these images and things that fill the spaces. There are many of those. So, and Mike, Waasegiizik, you were saying what can we do to save this language? And I always say, teach our kids, because in order to teach our kids, we have to learn it first. And we're learning it together, and we start them early. And so when we have a school or an educational system where we can exert what we want to have in place, and not just the culture class that's every Thursday, or the Ojibwe language class from 1 to 1:45 every day, but all day, every day, including the weekends, all around the whole season. And then you do the math, right? So there it is. That's a way to build the momentum and to perpetuate the cycle. So I have to tell you one more thing before I mute myself and hand it off. But we had the fortune of going to Hawaii and New Zealand and seeing some of their programs that have had decades of experience under their belts already. And they had said, this is going to happen to you. And it wasn't even on our radar. We hadn't even opened our school yet or anything. And I said, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to see a generation of people. And they said, right now, you can probably count the number of people who are second language learners of Ojibwe on your hands. And I could count, like, oh yeah, I know 8 people. There's so-and-so over in this community. They're coming along pretty good. And and then these Hawaiians said, you're going to see a time, if you keep doing this work, there's going to be these beautiful younger people coming up, and are going to be even better speakers of Ojibwe and know more than you are. And you will have no idea who they are. And I thought, wow. And they said, and that's what you want. That's what you need. And you will be happy that that's occurring. Sure enough, it happened. So here it is, this cycle keeps happening. And then they said, and then these students are going to grow up, and some of them are going to look back, and they're going to want to come back with you. And they're going to say, here's my child. They're ready for preschool now. And I want a job. Can you help me? And that happens. And that's happening now. And that was 20 years ago. So there's truth in that. And a lot of these programs, like in New Zealand and in Hawaii too, are connected to the land, to the treaty rights, to the deep, long time teachings that they've had. And that's how they've built themselves. And I think there's great success in that. Have broken down the systems that we know don't work anymore, and have put them aside, and have charted new course, and for the Polynesian stuff, I mean, that they're ocean going world travelers, like that's, these pathways. But look at what the boundary waters is. And I like to use that as an analogy. To see that, I think we're visual thinkers too, Indigenous people. We see images, and we're very visual that way. And so to think of our journeys as portages, and when you travel boundary waters, you do a lot of that, like what's on the next portage, what's coming. Okay, rapids, not shooting the rapids, we got to get out, we got to portage over. But I told this Hawaiian lady one time, I said, starting Waawaakeyaash, it's like we haven't had a chance to portage, because we're just jumped in the canoe and we started going, and we were shooting the rapids one after another, not knowing where we were going or what we were doing. And she said, well, how many years has it been now? And I said, it's about 10 or 12 years. And she says, it sounds like you're getting pretty good at shooting rapids. So what are you going to do now? Just keep going, keep building it up, And I thought, man, that's like a great Indigenous analogy and connection to our place. And I try to see a lot of those things too, these phrases we use, like weaseled out of it, or we're not out of the woods yet. And this magazine Orion that publishes some really great stuff, they had one where there was a writer who was flipping those around and had said, well, we're not out of the suburbs yet. They said they looked at it that way. But some of the things, those expressions that we use, looking at them from a cultural perspective, helps to reassure us and solidify our connection to our cultural viewpoint and our worldview and our values, So I say, you didn't weasel out of it, man. The weasel's a powerful critter. That thing will take you down if you're sleeping, right? For the juggler, So Dixie knows about taking animals down. Cats, just kidding. Is that cat still there? You better watch out. I know mine's locked up upstairs. I couldn't let him down here. He'd be all over this thing. You just see a big tail. Okay, Mew.
So
Oh,
one,
just teasing my my cat skills. Sorry. Go ahead, Waasegiizik.
well, that's good. I wanted to hear that.
That'll be part of the takeouts, right? Outtakes. Sorry, I got it wrong.
First.
So one of the things I do at Glyphwick is I try to bring an Anishinaabe perspective to the work that we do. And one of the things I talk about a lot is relationship with the natural world, relationship with the trees, relationship with the animals, with the fish. And we also talk about kinship too, how we are related, to those things. And it's some really interesting conversations because, a lot of the non-natives there have their PhDs in research and in science, and their thought processes are embedded in the kind of the scientific method philosophy. And in that scientific method, for one thing, in order for the scientific method to be effective, you have to see yourself as a third person observer. You have to see yourself separated from what you are observing. And two, that there's this kind of a carryover baggage that the world that we are observing is inanimate, or it lacks spirit. And I think that goes all the way back to the Renaissance time during Rene Descartes and Francis Bacon and John Locke and all these philosophers who said that, if you're not a thinking person, then you really, you're just a biological machine that runs so contrary to Anishinaabe beliefs that we have kinship with the natural world, with each and every living thing, and that we need to define those relationships. And in the last year, since we've had this war going on with the protection of the wolves, this conversation about what is our kinship or our relationship with Maingan has really come to the forefront. And I have to say, all the non-native scientific people that I work with, they all have a good heart and they want to know what Anishinaabe people believe. They want to know about what is our teachings about our connections to the wolf, our relationship with the wolf. They want to know those things. And so I feel it's my job to kind of sit down and teach that and talk to them about that. And knowing this knowledge, knowing this Anishinaabe knowledge of connection and relationship actually helps them in their work. It helps them to be more connected to who they're studying. It helps them to be more respectful. It helps them to find ways how to reciprocate. They're taking knowledge from the natural world. Now, what are you giving back? Scientists never think like this. They always think in third person terms, and what can we take? This land is here for us to take from. We take the trees, we build our houses, we take the iron or the iron from the ore and build our skyscrapers. And it's all take. But a lot of these scientists here, I think they realize that has been a dangerous road for humanity, just to keep taking and taking and taking. So we've really got some good, sincere-minded people at Glyphwick. We're all working together, and it feels really good to be there. But I talked to them about relationship, and I used the birch tree as one story. I said, before colonization happened, our Anishinaabe ancestors built their lodging from birch bark. And they survived the brutal winters with the gifts of the birch tree. I said, so next time you're in the forest and you see a birch, I said, go up to that birch and just touch it and realize that if it hadn't been for the gifts of this tree, you probably would not be here today. And that's what we need to be thankful for to the birch. And we need to think about our connection to the birch. You know, I also think about cedar in the same way, how important cedar is to us as Anishinaabe people. You know, and I think about sugar maple as well, which is what we're talking about tonight. So, and me too. I like both Roxanne and Keller said. You know, this is a learning curve for me. My learning curve is more steeper now than it's ever been. Probably, the more and more I learn, the more and more I realize I don't know, and then the faster and faster I want to learn. So it's really an exciting time to be a what do you call it, a baby elder? Yeah, I feel like that I'm finally at a level of wisdom and knowledge that now I can ask the real important questions, and I can pursue these real avenues of inquiry. And yeah, man, life has been good since I moved here, and I love having these kind of conversations with like-minded thinkers as well. But yeah, as I said, going back to that word relationship, you know, what is our relationship with the maple tree? You know, how far back does that go? I think about that one story about Anishinaabe and the maple tree, and I know you guys are probably all familiar with it, where at one time the sap that ran from the tree was as sweet as processed sap, and over time, all the Anishinaabe people were drilling the holes and putting it in there in Neguaquan, and they would lay under it and just let the sap drip in their mouth. And then finally, Gijimanadu put an end to that, and now he made the sap where it took hard work now to get that sweetness. But I think about that story, and I think about how our people at one time took for granted the maple tree and just laid on their back and just drank the syrup, and not really working hard, not really giving anything back, just taking and taking and taking. And I think that story tells a lot about us as Anishinaabe people. You know, our culture ways teach us how to be respectful and work hard and to grow our relationships with the maple tree and the birch and the walleye, you know, and the Waawaakeyaash. But if we don't follow those teachings, then we end up like those guys laying on their back and letting the sap drip in their mouth. You know, and ironically, I see some people like that today. Not necessarily, you know, not just white people, but also Anishinaabe people too. We just want to take and not nurture that relationship and give back. So I think about that. I think about that story a lot, and why I think it's important that we need to nurture and grow our traditions and our language, you know, so that we maintain those relationships. Now,
Dang. That's exactly how I think of that story. Dang. You know, if that wasn't me, just taking and taking and taking, and look how unhappy I was. I'm telling you, in my young life, I was just seriously unhappy. I just wanted everything given to me. I just took and took and took, you know. That was, you know, and so that really resonates with me. Hey, dang. I'm so, you know, money do, oh my goodness, you know, I have no idea, you know, I have no idea why me. And I used to say that, I said, you know, why me? Oh, until it was spun on me. And Auntie Mary said, why not you? Who do you think you are? I said, whoa, okay. Yeah, and so I think about one of the questions that someone asked in the chat, you know, was for something specific. What are we recommending? What specifically would I recommend that you do? You know, for me, I had to take a good hard look at what's real for me. What values do I live by? Do I really want to continue this life the way it's been? Because I remember the day I looked in the mirror and just went, oh my God, what have I done? Oh my God. And that flipped everything. That flipped everything in my life. And from that moment on, Monty Do just put everything I needed in my life. When I gave everything up, it's a, it was all given. It was all given. And so I would say that, if you happen to be a taker, and I don't know that that's true for you. I mean, this is a personal evaluation. It's a personal look. If you see that that's true for you, but there's a very simple thing to do. Stop. Stop it. Don't do that. I tease, but it's true. It's true. And instead, if any of this sounds like something that you think is important, then pick up the work, because there is work to be done. And you can do this work in many ways, whether it's writing or getting out there and protesting, or going out and helping our young people that are hauling them little buckets. Hey, whatever. There are things that you can do, but I can't tell you what to do. I think that's probably one of my most beautiful teachings. We're given free will. We're given free will. But how can you not be reciprocal when you really see just how much you have been loved? Oh my goodness, James Vukolich, bless his heart. Oh, he said something one time that it just kind of, whoa, okay, cool. He was talking about the gifts of the earth, and how she provides. And he said it in this way. He said, sinner and saint alike, she gives to. She denies no one. Thus is her generosity. I went, whoa, I love that. We are so loved. And when we come through that, how can we not reciprocate? So I wish I could give you real specific things that you could do other than to self-evaluate. There's plenty. There's plenty. All you gotta do is ask around, trust me.
Oh, did we lose Roxanne?
It's always my fear that that's going to happen, but I'm not going to look as good as her when it freezes. It's going to be it's going to be a Shrek moment. Yeah, so I guess my question would be to Michael and Keller, like, in looking at Anna's question, like recommendations, like what can we do? What would you like for those that are in the boundary waters, that are spending time in this space and place, what sort of actions would you charge them with?
Yeah, that's a pretty deep question. Definitely going back to that word that I mentioned, relationship. I would like to see people who go up there to visit, just to see the wildlife, maybe take a trip and try to gain something more than just a relaxing vacation. Maybe try to reach out and connect with the natural world. I don't know. I'd have to think about this for a little bit. This is a really thought-provoking question. Maybe somebody else has an answer while I'm blowing the cobwebs out of my brain and getting it to work right.
Well, I think leave no trace the mantra there, that's a pretty good teaching to carry in many places, but in some places we need more than a trace, something done. So I think people can take action and be proactive to sustain what's there, to ensure that it is not only clean. I mean, those are the easy things to do in my mind, that when you paddle through, when you're in natural places, you know, the obvious things of picking up what you brought, but even more. But I think it's time to go beyond that. It's time to help restore places that were once like the boundary waters, maybe try to move in that direction to find solutions for some of the real challenges that we have and that humans are imposing on the world and on each other. I think we can begin to ask a little bit more than just picking up your trash, which essentially in my mind is what maybe leave no trace is. Of course, don't cut the branches off the trees, don't burn the forest down, don't whatever, but we're realizing too that fire is not such a bad thing, right? When it's done, implemented carefully. But I guess what can you do? Keep learning, keep teaching, keep sharing with one another about the importance of and the power of those natural places, and that it's not just for our benefit, right? The boundary waters it benefits all that, all of it, the whole cell of earth, you know. So you got it now, Waasegiizik? Did it come? I'll hand it off. Our Roxanne's back on. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead, Roxanne.
I love how Manidu cuts you right off. You are done. Yeah, I have a good friend who is Hidatsa, and when his grandma died, he took on a new grandma, and then I became friends with him right about that time. And then when his mom died of COVID, he had to take on a mom. And so I became the mom. And so now I receive gifts from him for birthdays and for, you know, his mother's birthdays. Christmas, I don't practice, but I get gifts from him, you know. And at one point I said, you know, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be sending that to me. And he said, quit it. In my way, we are to give and not receive. In my way, we are to leave things better than when we came. He said, so quit it. And I quit it. And so I receive those gifts. Sometimes I do feel a little funny, but I take them because it's the spirit in that giving. Okay. Leave it better than it was when you came. Leave it better. Be the gift giver. Be the one that, you know, is leaving behind something that will benefit another person to leave it better. And sometimes it does. It feels a little weird, you know. But now I do funny things too. And this is this odd one, but like round up at McDonald's, for God's sake. Give to Ronald McDonald House. You know? Round up. Give it to the boundary waters. There are tons of little things that we can do. Okay. Don't support places that you know are harmful or want to do harm. Don't support them. Take your quarter someplace else. You know, yeah. But leave it better. And that's, you know, how can you not reciprocate? Look at all she's done for you.
Mhm.
So we have about 10 minutes left. There was one question about whether or not we could provide contact. So if, and this is one of four panels we're doing. So if you're comfortable with that, sharing your professional contact, we can, on this end between Allison and CSS, share that out. Yeah, this has just been great. I texted Dixie on the side. I go, it feels like Anishinaabe church. Like, I don't know how to say it, but I was like, it filled my bucket. So I'm just looking at questions we have, and so one of them was from Raina about sharing contact information. So if you're comfortable with that, please do. And I agree. I think, you know, we have one participant from California thinking about like what can they do in their space, right? Because they're, you know, dealing with environmental issues that we're dealing with on a different level. And so how can we support one another in taking care of our mother? I think is the important part. And oh, sorry, I keep looking at the Q&A. Multitasking.
Yeah, and I'll tune in real quick only because I think recently I was listening to Waawaakeyaash, and something that he said really struck me too was that, you know, they always ask for our numbers. I don't know about you guys, but I don't see myself as any kind of anybody, you know. I have an opinion, there you go, and I'm certainly very free with it, huh? But I'm going to tell you that look around you, there are other people that are equally as opinioned. There are other organizations that are also doing work that that you can participate with. Don't just look to us. Look around. There's lots. Once you start swimming in a certain pool, you'll start seeing them fish. So get out the pool you're in, jump over here, and I promise you, you'll see the fish. You'll start seeing other little fish that you can hook up with that will help you to find other things that you can do, eh? It's as soon as I jumped out of the pool I was in as a taker, oh, everything changed.
So Allison, Dixie, do you, I feel great. And I'm really excited that this project 100% has been, I said blood, sweat, and tears before, but in the good way, right? Like giving of yourself to provide something that can do hopefully a greater good, in teaching our youth about the importance of space and place, and that we're not as humans the end all be all, right? And to treat things in a kind way. And so I'm gonna stop and fade into the background and leave it up to the two of you to wrap us up. Again, Waasegiizik, always great to see you. I'm excited to have you back on campus a few more times.
Mm-hmm.
Keller, I feel like way back when with Ecological, like our country is big and small at the same time, and you know we keep kind of circling around. And Roxanne, it's been just such a blessing to see you as much as I have with the language symposium in the past few months. So I feel really blessed. So I am going to silence myself and turn it over to Allison and Dixie.
I'll maybe leave it to Dixie to kind of wrap us up, but I just wanted to say thank you and miigwech for all of the things that you shared. I am really grateful that through connecting with Jennifer on this project, I connected with her about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago. And we just started talking about this. And so I'm really grateful that through her connections that Dixie came onto this project, and through the two of them that we were able to hear from all of you tonight. And I just thank you so much for sharing everything. And I'll be very excited to hear everyone again. And I'm excited that we'll all be here in this space again soon. I'll turn things over to Dixie.
I'm just like capital W, capital A, capital H. Wow. Just so grateful. When I got my degrees, I was really, I'll keep it short, but circles back to what we're doing right here, right now. I was really puzzled because I just could not make that Western, I could not figure out how to get to make my Western degree work, right? Those degrees. And I had signs along the way, that were like steering me, but I wasn't listening, I was in my 20s and thought I was supposed to be doing this, I was supposed to be doing that, and really like learning, still in that big space of learning between Western world and Anishinaabe world, and back to like what some of the things that Roxanne talked about with tobacco, and Dennis talks about with tobacco when he talked to our group previously. I had put out my tobacco, just desperate, just sad and desperate. Didn't know what to do. And I said to the monitor, put me where you need me to be, and I'll just listen. Just put me where you need me to be. And I can remember, I think it was back in end of December, beginning of January, just this such huge feelings of gratitude to be a part of this project. Just so filled, like we've been talking about. The Montague just love us so much. And and Roxanne, when you were talking about your great grandbabies, and what are you leaving for them? I haven't even been able to think that far ahead, but I have thought about my grandbabies, and my goodness, what am I doing? And ever since you said that, it's like I've got this lump in my throat. And speaking of that, my daughter's upstairs vomiting right now. My poor baby. She's sick. So I'm going to go just because of that, because I can hear her vomiting right now. And I so look forward to seeing all of you soon. And I'm going to let Jen and Allison close us up. Great. It was nice to see all of you tonight, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
So yeah, life happens while making other plans. So Dixie's babies, poor girls. That's what we do. We multitask. International Women's Day. So I added, and I hope everyone can see this, the link to the upcoming, our next panel, which will be panel 2 of 4, will be March 22nd. So the amazing people that were here tonight will be back with us, as well as some additional panelists. If you have questions, feel free to email us and let us know, and we'll make sure that all the contact information is available. So thank you all for just a beautiful night, and great to see you, and have a wonderful evening.
Miigwech, everybody.
Which
Oh, miigwech.